What is going on, Degen Nation? Kenny Kim here, bringing you another Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast this week for the SONY Open. As usual, I am here with everybody's favorite Canadian, Tyler Tamboline. Tyler, what is up, my friend? How are you, brother?
I'm doing good. I don't know if I'll be your favorite Canadian this week, though. I think you got another one in mind. You've been talking about him nonstop since yesterday. So we'll get to Corey Connors. Spoiler alert, we'll get there. But want to remind everyone very quickly, this show is brought to you and presented by ShipItNation.com. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, obviously a site I'm part owner of. Would love to have you guys over there. We just launched PGA-only packages. So everyone was saying, oh, I want to get in, but I don't need all the sports, whatever it might be. We always adapt to what the people are looking for. We added this so you can get in right now. The code is PGA10. Gets you 10% off the monthly or the season long. If you go monthly, it drops down to about $30 a month, $1 a day. If you go with the full season pass, it drops down to around $179, which is about $5 per event. So all the other stuff is over there. If you do want all sports, you can use promo code Mayo, get it on the action that way. But we'll be talking through everything. And then want to remind you guys, as we record this, of course, about the Fantasy Golf Championships, the race for the Mayo Cup, the 2024 race for the Mayo Cup, $800K up top. Heard Pat talking about it. Kenny, you mentioned it pre-show. He's looking to get to $1 million for next year. As we record this right now is Monday evening, pretty early in the evening, only 200 spots left to get in on the action there. We did draw a winner. Want to give a shout out before we get to this in a minute for Doug K517. He won the one and done giveaway. So that was part of the prizes for the Tournament of Champions. We're going to have more on that later with some Ship It Nation, some cash, some other stuff, and talk about other things we've got going on. But Kenny, kick it back to you, man. It's going to be a fun week ahead.
All right, so one thing I want to add about this. So I was looking at our numbers for last week, and, we've been doing this. This is our 9th year. All right, so I figured, okay, year 9, it's about time we plateau. We can't just keep growing every year. It's just crazy for 9 years. Well, guess what? Our tournament, our century show jumped up 33% from last year on YouTube. It's a pretty big jump. And so we've been doing this for so long, and I really, throughout our history, I really haven't clamored for, more 5-star reviews, more good reviews on iTunes or something like that. We just haven't done that. Well, you know what? We're going to change things up a little bit for these last couple of seasons. I want to see how big we can really get. So here's what I'm going to do. It's going to be a contest for all you listeners. Every week, when you watch the podcast on YouTube, I want you to go to the comments, okay? Pick your winner. Write down your winner every week. Write down your Twitter handle and also your DraftKings handle. Write it down in the comments section. Every week, I will look through the comments and see how many picked the winner. Of that group, I will do a random draw. One of those listeners will join our 3-man that we do every week. So, every week, if you win a listener league, you get to go in a 3-man against Tambo and I for bragging rights. And, if you win our listener league, you also get to go to the Tournament of Champions, which we'll talk about here shortly, because this is our Tournament of Champions week. So what I'm planning on doing is I will pick a name from the YouTube comments every week, and you will join our 3-man. We'll make it a 4-man. If you win the 4-man, you will be invited to our Tournament of Champions with all types of prizes. Tambo, why don't you go over the prizes now so that people can know what they're going to get for the Tournament of Champions?
Yeah, I was still shell-shocked when you said write it down in the comments. Like, you can actually just type it in, too, even if you want to. So write it down, go type it in, whatever you're doing. But if you're listening,
you know what the fuck I'm talking about. Fuck.
I know, I got to get you still. It's still fun and games. We're just getting started here for 2024, but definitely put it in there. Love this idea. It's going to help us grow a ton. We do appreciate it. If you're listening to it on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, it takes 2 seconds to load the YouTube app. Type in Fantasy Golf Degenerates just to throw your pick in there with your DraftKings address or DraftKings username, and then we'll pick one, like Kenny said, of the winners. It'll be random. If nobody picks the winner, we'll actually pick another random name. We'll do this each week, just like the PGA Tour turned it into the Century and took out the Tournament of Champions. They loaded up the field with a little bit more last week. We will recap that and Chris Kirk's win here in a little bit. Some other things to go with it, but just to mention, this will open up our field some. Now, for this week, I did send out the invites. 2 things about this week. One, first off, the Listener League. It's going to be out. It'll be on my Twitter, our Twitter. Main thing, set it up where it's 500 people for the first week. They're going to try that out. Very balanced payout structure. I think it's going to be 250 to first, 25 for 10th, double your money, $10 for a min cash, $5 3 max as usual. So
here's the one thing. The quicker we fill that 500 people contest, the more likely it'll double, the more likely it'll triple as the year goes on. So try and fill it quickly, okay?
That's what the DK rep said. The faster you get it filled, the more we will build. Meaning they'll build it bigger, get it stronger for you, everything that you guys want. The bigger, the better. Obviously, we're open for that. Second, like Kenny said, this is our Tournament of Champions week. I think there's 48 people or something in it. If everyone joins, I can only send out the link and tell you about it on here. I'll send it out a couple times throughout the week to make sure to try and get everybody into it. But check your invites. If you can't find it, you're not getting it, you can DM me on X at Totag and Tambo. Hit me up there. I'll have you covered. The prizes for this week. So we already gave away the $200 one and done. For first place, it's going to be a Ship It Nation season pass to the PGA. So 8 months of Ship It Nation PGA. I should note, week one, extremely successful. We had people just hopping in the streets for the first time. My guy Jordan Newens won a Fantasy Golf World Championship seat. First week, hopping in the mix. We have multiple people win anywhere from 4K up to Jay Bannock won 100K. There's lots of big winners in the Ship It Nation Discord. You can go check it out on our X at Ship It Nation. Follow us there for all the updates and news. But you'll get a year, the season pass for PGA, and $300 cash. Second place is going to be for a month of the coverage, a month of PGA coverage with $200 cash. And then third place prize, and that's it. We're just doing the top three. It's about 10, just under 10%, obviously, because the 45 or 48 people, whatever it is. But you will get a 1 month PGA package as well as $100 cash. So again, giving away just about $1,000 in cash with the one and done buy-in and everything, the $200 there. And then also all of those memberships over at shipitnation.com, our sponsor, my site. So keep that in mind. That's going to be the way we set it up. But Kenny's opening it up in the future to be just like the PGA Tour. We're going to fill the field. And speaking of that, Ken, I don't know if we're going to go straight to the recap, but we'll give Chris Kirk his props. Obviously, incredible stuff there, but filled up the field. But you would talk pre-show a little bit of something you wanted to talk about today, that it didn't feel like the best field overall, or something about it just wasn't to the way you thought it would be.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about last week. First off, make sure you put the winner, your winner pick in the comments on YouTube so you can get in for a draw, maybe be in our Tournament of Champions. We're going to do this every week, so let's go ahead and get this done because, the more comments you get, the more the algorithm spreads our podcast out on the YouTube so more eyes can see it and we can get more views. Now, you won't, this is the longest we'll talk about something like this all year, I promise. We normally don't do stuff like that, but I was just in shock, and I was like, well, fuck it, let's see how big we can get. All right, so talking about last week, Chris Kirk, great win. But the one thing I thought was strange, and I don't know, I'm sure people are going to disagree with me on this. So that field that we saw at the Century is basically the field that we're going to see at every single elevated event, minus Rory. And like a couple of scrubs that'll be like, not scrubs, but a couple of middle tier guys that'll get in from the 60 to 70th spot and the 50 to 60th spot. But for the most part, the Century was top 50 in FedEx Cup points and winners from last year. So all 50 of those people were in except Rory. And so those are the people that are normally going to be in these elevated events that we see, once, twice a month, basically, until the summer. The issue I had is, this was a pretty big event. It had all the stars that the PGA has. It felt like it was lacking star power to me. It felt like for the first time, last year, I don't think, and it's not all John Rahm leaving, but that's a big part of it. Like, I don't miss John Rahm just as a singular person. But you take away John Rahm, you take away Dustin Johnson, you take away Brooks Koepka, you take away Bryson DeChambeau, you take away young guys who look like they were on their way, like a Joaquin Neiman, like a Mito Pereira, like a Taylor Gooch. You got villains like Patrick Reed. This is the first time I watched an event where I was like, wow, I really, really feel like we're missing a lot of stars. And it's not even as close to a good of a watch as it can be. I don't know if it's recency bias because of Rahm leaving and because of the fact that maybe these two entities are going to join back up together, and that's what I really want. But to me, like, it didn't seem, like for the gambler, for the degenerate, okay, yeah, it was great. Because one thing I noticed about the event was it looked like there was like 20 people that were in the lead at some point in time during the event. So for like a gambling sweat or a GB sweat, it was a lot of fun, right? I mean, you had Benny On up there at one point. You had Viegas up there at one point. You had all English was near the lead. And you had literally felt like a dozen to 15 guys who had the lead at some point in time. It was a lot of fun. But like just from a star factor, like we watch golf week in and week out because we gamble and we do our thing, but like the normal fan, they go out and they want to see the stars. They want to see the best of the best. And I think this is the first time where you watch an event, these are the best of the best in the PGA Tour, and it felt like something was missing. Felt like there wasn't enough star power. Maybe Rory would have been enough. It's possible. If Rory came in and he played that event, maybe that might have changed my feeling a little bit. But like all the big time personalities are gone. They're not in the PGA anymore. And it hurts. And I don't know what to do. I mean, I'm still going to watch. Now, I would guess that the majority of people watching and listening to this right now disagree with me. And that's fine. Good. Then you don't feel the way I feel. It's great. Okay? Because if everyone felt the way I felt, it would be a big fucking problem. Right? But this is just my opinion on this first event. And I don't know, man. I'm hoping that this changes. Maybe because it was such a birdie fest. Maybe because it was just a hit and giggle. Maybe that was the reason why. Maybe when we get to more difficult courses, when we get to the, these top tier courses that have elevated events, it'll feel different. Maybe that's what I'm hoping. But man, it felt like it was lacking this past week. And it was the first time since the whole shit went crazy that I actually felt that way about a PGA Tour event. What did you think, Tambo? I mean, did you have any feelings about that?
Yeah, I think, sorry, we're doing the comment run. Throw that in your comment as well. When you put your winner for this week, see what you think about it. Get your thoughts. Because like Kenny said, I think first off, a few takes. One, people are going to disagree with you because they feel like they have to. Here's why. Last week, it was the week ago or whatever it said, like, oh, I think it's going to be a big deal that Rahm's going to be missing. Now everyone's mocking that, saying Rahm wasn't missed. We still got a great event. Look at the leaderboard. It had ups, downs, etc. I get that. And I don't think Rahm is to me as to Rory is to this event, where it's like you said, Rory was missing and we knew it. Would he have changed a bunch? Probably not. Rahm was missing. Would it have changed a bunch? Probably not. I don't disagree on that. But I think, does this matter, Kenny? I have to ask you this because if you look at the board, we'll give Chris Kirk his props. Incredible stuff. The journey he's been back on, getting back into things, and now just tearing it up again and getting another win. Awesome. But like Theegala, Spieth is a big name. Spieth was definitely in the mix. He had his chances after his double bogey on 3 on day 1 when Discords declared him dead, which I put the PSA out about this week. He came back all the way. But does this matter? That when you drop down to T5 through T12, you've got Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay. If you want to give love to Jason Day or Tyrrell Hatton or any of those guys, does that matter? Like imagine on Sunday if instead of Chris Kirk, Theegala, Benny Ann, nothing against those are some of my favorite guys. I love Benny Ann. I love Sungjae. Everybody knows that. Theegala's the man. Love him. Like, does it matter, though, if you flip the board and on Sunday we would have had Morikawa, Spieth, Xander, Scheffler, and Cantlay battling it out down the stretch?
I understand what you're saying, but the issue is, if those golfers, if Bryson, Koepka, the golfers that I listed that off-lid, if they played in this event, the likelihood that the top of the board would be Kirk, Theegala, and on. It could still happen, but it would be a lot less likely.
Right.
It would just be less likely.
Which was my next point. Yeah, that was my next point, though, what you said about the birdie fest, is that's the other angle, is what ends up happening some cases in this. And it goes both ways. Don't forget, everyone declared the Open was just a complete write-off. Why? Because Brian Harman got hot, and it's a tough track to beat. And so when somebody gets hot like that and goes, oh, was it the Open? Or, yeah, it was the Open, declared jug, the jug to match the little-sized man that we always make fun of, that the Hobbit, that kind of made sense. So I guess that would be the other way to look at it, right, Kenny? Sometimes in a strong field, tougher course, you can have the same. Look at the year of the Open when it was, again, this was exciting because we had a 2-man race, but the weather came in at where we'll be going this year, Royal Troon. We had Stenson and Mickelson. Besides the fact that those two actually battled till near the very end, that would have sucked if it was just the boat race for Stenson or Mickelson.
Yeah, but you had Phil. You had Phil there, which is the most popular player in golf.
But I'm saying, even if Phil had been on his own and ran away with it, you can only give so much credit. At least it was Phil at the time and everything. But at the same time, from a fan perspective, viewer, you're like, it's awesome that it's Phil when people liked him a lot back then. I know some people still love him. That's fine. But my point would be, at least that has something to it. Like, this is the challenge when you get to a birdie fest going the other way. It makes it tough because these guys can all just go 9 under, get into the mix on Saturday, and then on Sunday, if they throw the same 9 under up, they're right there at the top. And so that's kind of how this looks, I guess. That would be my other takeaway. Last one would be the guys like Neiman and Answer and Gooch and all those guys you mentioned. I will speak on that quickly because they do matter, I think. And again, people will say whatever they want about this. I don't care. My take on them is that, well, we do have budding stars, if you want to call them, of people that are up-and-comers that are going to get into the mix. It's still a matter of time. Like, it still takes time. Besides a guy like Ludwig, who's like a once-in-a-while talent that you get, sure, that's awesome. That's great. He disappeared off the board, unfortunately, this weekend. Bhatia, same thing. Awesome to see him up there on Saturday. Disappeared. But still, these guys are literally just starting to build their name out there. With those guys, we had an established name. It wasn't to where we need to get them, but it was like, it was come. Now we're getting like Sungjae is back. We're going to talk about Sungjae and Siwoo in a minute here, by the way, too. But just to get to all of it, some of these guys that are getting into the mix, Theegala, Sungjae, we got a little more burn with them. We feel better about that. So when they're getting up there, it's starting to make sense. Everyone always says next man up. I agree. It's golf. Like, there is always going to be somebody else that's awesome that comes out that's great. But what I'm trying to say is, when you had established dudes like Answer, Neiman, Gooch, whatever, and everyone just wants to say they suck now, say what you want. We'll see at the majors again. But the point is, I think they're just fine, and it would be much nicer to have them in the mix as well than just have it. We got to get to the solution to get this alleviated so we can just get everybody back. That's all it comes down to.
I'm just hoping this is a 1 week thing, and I just was being an idiot. I don't know. I mean, like, it's just the way I felt. It was the first time I felt like this about an event watching it, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the feeling I had. All right. So before we get into this week, anything else?
Nope. I think we're good to roll.
All right. Let's go into the SONY Open. As you can see, I'm wearing my Hawaiian garb. Now, I bought this about 15 years ago, so the buttons are literally screaming like off my chest right now. Like, if I sneeze, I'm pretty sure the button's gonna fly out and hit my camera and cracking. So hopefully I do not sneeze. But we are in our second leg in Hawaii. So the PGA Tour stays in Hawaii this week as Waialae Country Club, one of my favorite games for Nintendo 64 way back in the day, plays host to the SONY Open. Just a few trends before we get into the event. 5 winners here, only 5 winners in their 20s since the year 2000. Russell Henley in 2013, JT in 2017, Cam in 2020, Decky 2022, Siwoo last year. Now, here's the thing, what you notice, a lot of that happened recently. So these young guys are just different now. They're so much better in talent than they used to. These 20-somethings can ball out. So I don't know how much I'll look into that trend, but it's definitely a trend. Only 5 golfers since 2000 have won this event that were aged in their 20s. Right? But again, next one. 17 of the last 25 winners here played the week before at the Tournament of Champions. Now, looking at that, Tournament of Champions usually has a really strong field. It's usually like the best golfers that play that event year in and year out. So it doesn't surprise me that a lot of them stay, a lot of them play the SONY, and a lot of them come back and win. That's a pretty normal type thing. Now, I don't think it's going to be something that you really have to. Now, here's the thing. I don't think it's something that you have to really look at. I would look more at like course history instead of how they did last week, or if they didn't play last week. Now, the one thing I will say, in cash, probably going to stick with guys who played last week, because you just don't know what these guys did in December. You know, how much work they got. Now, this correlates with the next trend, where this is the second stickiest course when it comes to course history on the PGA Tour, behind Augusta. Now, I think I was listening to Andy Lack's podcast this morning, and he made a really good point about why he thinks that's the case. And he thinks that's the case because you could tell guys who consistently grind in it during the break And that's why they come out. SONY Open's always the first event of the year, the first real event of the year. So it makes sense that the guys who continually grind in the off season do well in the first event compared to guys who maybe take a little bit of time off. I thought that was a really good point by Andy, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And that's why you see like a lot of the same guys playing well at this course year in and year out. Some that you don't even think would fit in the course fit type bowling. Ryan Palmer, like this guy plays well here every year, right? He doesn't look like the guy that would typically be in top of your model on a course like this, but maybe he goes out and grinds every December and works his ass off, comes here in his first event, and it pays off. He's not as rusty as the other guys. I think Andy makes a good point in that. I don't know if that's the real reason why, but I don't think we'll really ever know what the real reason why. I mean, the course history is so sticky here, but I think that was a good point. Now let's get to the course. Waialae. It's about a 7,000 yard plus par 70, 4 par 3s, 12 par 4s, 2 par 5s, which are both reachable. Par 5, 2 of the easiest on tour. Two of the easiest on tour. 5 of the par 4s range from 400 to 450 yards, and another 5 range from 450 to 500 yards, but only 2 of them are over 460 yards. So you're looking at like 8 holes between 400 and 460. That's what you're going to see. You're also going to see a couple of shorter par 4s under 400. The 10th, it's close to drivable, but I don't see many people breaking out the big dog and driving it down there. Now, the par 3s are short-ish, but they're tough, and they range from 170 yards to 210 yards. The course is set up, right next to Mayo Bay, which can cause windy conditions. If the wind is down, of course, not too difficult to score on. The weather report as of now says that winds could gust from 20 to 35 miles per hour during the first 3 rounds, with much calmer conditions Sunday. Now, I'm looking at the weather forecast at 5:55 on a Monday afternoon. So, shit can change. Now, if the wind, if we do see consistent 20 to 30 mile per hour winds, you could see like a similar score of like 2020 when Cam Smith won at 11 under. If the wind doesn't blow, or if it's just, average, I would expect a winning score close to -20. Now, off the tee, golfers are going to see above average size tree-lined fairways that are firm, flat, and fast, with bunkers in play on a few holes and water only a factor on 2 holes. The fast firm fairways make this a difficult course to get your drive on the short grass. Like people think these like fairways are super skinny. They're not necessarily like the narrowest fairways on tour. I mean, they're above average with total width. Now, the problem is why people miss so many fairways is the rollout here it rolls out. Ball rolls out a lot. And you have the uneven fairways, not as uneven as last week, but still uneven enough where it can take a bad bounce and roll into the rough, into the first cut really, really easy. Especially the longer you hit your club off the tee, because a lot of these holes, they sort of end and they have that little dog leg either right or left. So if you hit it straight and it goes through the fairway into the rough, and that'll happen, or into bunkers. You'll see that happen a lot. Now, 2 of the toughest fairways to hit on tour are actually on this course, which is crazy because last week, one of the easiest fairways to hit, guys only hitting a 475-yard drive out there. It's some wild stuff. But, the 2 hardest fairways to hit on this course are the 18th, which has been the hardest fairway to hit on the PGA Tour since 2012, about 30% fairway hit rate. The 13th hole is the 5th hardest fairway to hit on tour since 2012. Only about 38% hit the fairway there. Now, the rough around the fairway normally hasn't been particularly high, but it has been gnarly. Now, the rough is actually up from 2.25 inches to 3 inches now. They actually started this last year. And it's basically a crapshoot when you hit into the Bermuda grass rough. Sometimes the ball stay up, and the line will be fine. Other times the ball can sink to the bottom of the grass. Flyer lies, pretty normal. Now, here's the thing. Waialae consistently ranks in the 20 hardest rough proximity courses on tour, but it actually ranks inside the top 20 easiest courses to score from the rough. How that is, I don't know. You got to get some numbers, guys, to figure that out. I don't know how that makes sense, but it's the truth. Now, with this type of information, you would think driving accuracy is going to be super important, but then you look at the numbers and trends, and you see that this is not true. Only 19 of 67 golfers that finished top 3 here since 2005 were ranked inside the top 50 in driving accuracy. 4 years ago, more than half of the top 10 golfers were below the field average of driving accuracy for the week. Even though the 18th fairway is one of the most difficult fairways on tour, it still plays as one of the easiest par 5s each season. So 5 years ago, the winner, Fabian Gomez, hit 50% of his fairways and was tied for 60th in driving accuracy. He won. Snedeker, who finished second that year, was 52%. He was 56 in driving accuracy. In 2017, JT hit less than 45% of fairways and shot 59 during the first round of this event. Now, I personally think the golf tournament's going to be won on approach shots from off and on the fairway, especially from 125 to 175 yards, which the majority of approaches will come from, and putting. Of the last 16 winners, all of them except Kazire, Na, Decky, Siwoo finished a year inside the top 66 in strokes gained putting. Now, again, sort of like the stat I had earlier, of those, all 4 of these golfers have won in the last 6 years. So the trend recently has been shitty putters have been winning this event. Prior to the 6 years ago, it was mostly good putters. And so, again, and the age thing, the 20-year-old things, trends change. If you want to use it, go ahead. I'm just putting it out there for you. You could believe it. You could use it. Do whatever you like. But those are what the numbers say. All right, so let's keep going on. On approach shots, golfers are going to see average size Bermuda grass greens that are, fairly flat. Golfers are going to need to hit as many greens as possible because there is a lot of trouble surrounding them. And they do hit a lot of greens here. One of the highest green and regulation percentages on tour. Many large, deep bunkers protect the greens, and the rough around the greens much higher and thicker than the rough surrounding the fairways. These greens are firm and usually play around 11 on the STID meter. Many people say that this course is similar to Mayo, Sea Island, Nine Bridges, Colonial, Harbor Town, and Copperhead. Take a look at those courses for course correlation. Tambo, what are you looking for in golf?
Yeah, you said it, man. Shitty putters here. Why didn't Scotty show up? Man, another bad week yet. I think one good day of putting, and the guy's still up at the top of the board. I think he lost over half a stroke on the entire week last week when I checked it earlier today. So, but yeah, you broke it down. Obviously, a very good breakdown. We know a lot about this course. Not sure why it does set up the way it does. I will say this year up top, like some of these guys that I just see no history on, you guys got different breeds now too. A guy like Ludwig up top at 10-5 when we get into the tiers. So biggest thing for me is just looking back to last week. Look, last week was what it was. It was the first week getting back, the century, all that. But obviously, we're still during football. I brought this up last week. I'm going to continue to bring it up here. I think people are just still going to play what people say. This course history thing is going to live on, the trends, all that. And I get it. When Mayo and I do the show this week for the in-studio show, breaking down, looking at lineup construction, we're going to be looking at that. We'll have better ownership at that time and know where people are at and try and look for different angles of attack. But I think that's going to be the bigger focus for me. And then also, just bringing it up too, you talked about it, but just going back, like the last week stuff, it's just going to lead to more people being popular in these certain ranges. I did a first look show with Degenerates 75. We're going to start that every week on the Ship It Nation YouTube station. And we looked through these price tiers. You can pretty much already tell. So I'm going to try and bring some of that, like follow the content pattern into this show. When we get to these tiers, like the 7,500 to 7,900 range this week is completely loaded with what looks like is going to be all the chalk. Well, what is it? Well, let's think about this for a second. It's the first full field cut event of the season. I know it's only week 2, but when you go from a no cut last week where everyone was playing stars and scrubs, very easy to build those lineups and get away with it, people avoiding the 8K range, and now this week 7,500 to 8,900 is a range that everyone's going to love. I think you're going to see more people take on these balanced builds. So one thing I'm going to look at is definitely going to be with roster construction as a whole and see if I can get a couple of these guys up top, because there's lots of people that are saying it earlier today, Kenny, that based on no course history here And the fact that, there's not as much, there's 84 guys in the 6K range, but not everyone's going to like many of them. So what people are saying is you can make a case just to fade all these guys up top. People will say about Theegala. He had his run. He didn't come through last week. He came through for his price tag, but he didn't win. Last week, his game set up better for the course. You just said about the accuracy thing, which is the interesting part, but people will say that is that last week you could spray it and miss fairways, no problem. Guys like him and Spieth got away with it quite well, up at the top of the board, second and third. So I think people will go away from him. People don't love Fitzpatrick in this type of spot. Hatton, we'll get to, and then Ludwig, what do you do with him? A totally different breed from what we've seen from some of these up-and-coming players. So it's going to be interesting, but I do love this event. I think it's a great one to watch on TV. It's one that's like bucket list to go down, like go to Hawaii and be there. Everyone says it's an incredible time because you got lots of good players, not many people out there, all those things. So I don't know. I don't have much more thoughts than that, but I think it's really going to come down to that. Also, you mentioned it, weather. Big time factor here. Definitely can get some wave advantage stuff in some cases as well.
Let's go to these tiers. Let's go ahead and start in this 10K range, and let's talk about Oberg here. Because here's the thing about this course. Like, you would think it's like a less than driver course, and there are a lot of golfers that go and do less than driver here. It just makes a lot of sense with the shorter courses, the shorter par fours. But, with this new young breed of golfers, the holes that they can play driver on, because some holes you just can't here. But the holes where you can hit driver, and a lot of golfers in the past would still hit 3-wood, 5-wood, hybrid, something like that. These young boys nowadays, they're just pulling out the big dog. And the reason for that is technology, of course, because it seems like the driver is the least errant club in most people's bags now because of all the technology there is in a driver technology, where the sweet spot is just so big. You can miss the sweet spot and still hit it straight and long and far. So a lot of people are using drivers a lot more, particularly on courses where we didn't see that many drivers. I've talked about this off and on for the last couple of years, but I think we've seen it a lot on this course. That there's going to be more driver than you expect here. And again, like I said, even though the rough proximity is tough, for some reason, the scoring from the rough, not that difficult. Again, I don't understand how that works, but I'm not a math guy, but that's what the numbers say. Okay. Now, Oberg, he's long and he's accurate. Like, that should be just a huge advantage in every single course that he plays, except the courses like last week, where everyone's hitting every fairway all the time. He's tempting. What are you going to do with Oberg this week? What did you expect his ownership to be? Like, after being not that great last week, being the highest priced guy, could you see some drop in his ownership? Could you see 15%?
I hope so, but I don't know, because obviously with him being the guy at the very top, the price only capping at 10.5, lots of plays with a full field, it makes me think that people will still go there. I still have interest, though. I'm not going to be concerned if whether he's 15 or 21. Like, I think, again, we don't have enough information on him. I will say one other thing from the trends and stats and all the stuff that you brought up, and you might even have mentioned it within the mix of it all, and I just missed it. But the point of, I think people focus too much on last week plus played well last week, when it's really just been played last week. It doesn't really matter. Shake the rust off, whatever. I'm over there already, whatever it means, it's often that. So, if the people that are out there saying, oh, well, he's up from 8,700 to 10.5, he didn't come through last week, I'll just go to the guys below him. He sucked last week, whatever you want to say, I'm going right back to him no matter what. I think he makes sense. So I'm in on him. Someone who did play well last week, looks good on the ball. Again, I'm not sure what people will do with him, but I kind of like Hatton here at 10.3. I just think if you go back to last season and everything we've watched, like, he's probably better than people actually think he is. And I wonder if that affects, when you see a guy like him at 10.3, where people are like, but he's not a 10.3 golfer. But maybe he is. And in this, all I care about is this week in this field. So I got no problem going to him. After that, I don't think I have a ton of interest. Maybe if we find out the weather is going to be worse than we think, I could play a little bit more Fitzpatrick, in the sense of, like, if he's got to grind it out a little bit more or something like that. But, I do think Theegala will come in lower owned this week, because people are like, well, he had his shot last week. His price went up. It's not as good a course setup. So if you want to go back to Theegala, no problem with it. But up top, I think it's those two guys at the very top that stand out the most to me.
All right, that sounds good. Why don't you move on to this? My favorite play is going to be Hatton. My internet just gave out. I just got a new router, which is amazing because everything's so much quicker. I don't know what I was doing before. But I'm still trying to work the kinks on my laptop and stuff with this new router. But I like Hatton. Hatton's my favorite play here. I was trying to pull up some of his stuff, which is why I can't. There we go. Why I can't do it. But I mean, last year was probably his best year on the PGA Tour, and he didn't have a win.
Yeah.
I think he is like due. One of the more golfers that are more due than others to have a breakout win event. And then I think that this could be his week. And I think that's the one guy I'm definitely gonna play in the 10K range. And I'm gonna think about Oberg and Thigala. I'm gonna play one of those two or maybe none of those. I'm not sure exactly how I'm gonna go to, but I know that I'm going to play with Hatton. Tama, why don't you go ahead into the 9K range while I try to fix my laptop?
Yeah, I do want to see what happens here in this 9K range because I think, enough people are mentioning Corey Connors early on. I know enough people bet him. People always like Eric Cole, Russell Henley, so we'll see how that shakes out. Up top, I'm just not sure if what I think could be a lack of Fitzpatrick and Thigala, like a fair number on them, where they're 15 to 18 instead of being over 20, makes people go off of Brian Harman. But I will say this is always the narrative, right? This is what's going to happen. If you look at the history here, Harman, 32nd, 48, 56, 32nd, it's been horrible, but he looks good on paper. He looked really good last week. Even, I think it was round 4. I know a lot of it was putter, but that's kind of what he can do. But everything else was kind of in line as well. And if you look at him at 9,900, I just wonder if people are going to go away from him, but it'll be the classic narrative spit, right? If he doesn't have a good week, people will say, well, why'd you play him if his course history the last 5 years has been so bad? But if he does play good, people like it. You can lean on, well, you should have known he played good last week, came 5th, did well, etc., etc. So I'd be willing to take some shots on him. I still do like Cole, Henley, probably JT Poston, and then Decky would just be a play off of the previous thing that I mentioned, where it has nothing to do with last week. It's just that he got out, shook the rust off. I like the way my guy Degenerate 75 put it today. He said, what'd he say? He quit mentally, not physically. We just don't want to see Hideki get hurt or injured or mess up his neck or anything like that again. We want him just to be playing. He just didn't have the best week, but the fact that he was out there, him, Henley, would be two guys that stand out like that, where they're still going to look good. They have decent stuff here, and then they're in the mix. So I got no problem. I like Henley, Matsuyama, and then maybe Harman and JT Poston would sort of be on the outside of that. Eric Cole, going to continue to play him. He just keeps playing well. 14th again last week.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's been incredible. Like I said last week, I was not a believer. I'm a true believer now, and he is one of my cash game cornerstones. He's actually first in my model for this week. And if you look at his numbers, really good with his wedges. You want your guys to be good from at least 150 to 175, and also, if you can, 125 to 150. Those are going to be like more than half of your approaches are going to be from those two ranges. He's also a hell of a putter. You got to look for good putting at this type of week. And he's also tons of birdies. He has everything you need, basically. So Cole, no problem. He played last year for the first time here, finished 61st. At least he made the cut. It's a different Eric Cole that we, from January of last year to January now. Totally different player. I'm not worried about it. I expect a good showing from him. My second cash game cornerstone is actually right above him. Corey Connors at $9,800, $9,800. Again, last week, one of the best ball strikers out there. He didn't have a really good finish, but I think he was first or second, top 5 at ball striking. No doubt. He was just balling out there. Again, he just couldn't make a putt. Now, here's the thing. At this course, he's played it 5 times. Per round, he is averaging positive strokes gained putting. I think it's like 0.32 is what he averages positive strokes gained putting at this course, per round. And I'm sure some of it has to do with weird things where he gained a whole bunch of strokes putting in like 1 or 2 rounds, but still, at least you see positive strokes gained putting total when you look at all of his rounds combined here at this event. That's why I think he could win this event. I like him at 33 to 1. He is my headline bet. He's my second cash game cornerstone. I'm a big fan for GPPs. I have no problem going back to Chris Kirk. It's not like his ass partied after he won. Of course, I know most of you know, but if you don't, he's a recovering alcoholic. So it's not like he's going out and partying after every win. The funny thing is he has as many wins in his career in almost as many starts as Ricky Fowler. I think Chris Kirk has like 8 more starts than Fowler, and he has the same amount of wins. Just saying. And so, and this guy's course history of this event is magnifique, chef kiss. You know what I'm saying? That sticky course history, I like him. And again, good people may go off of him because they don't expect the guy to win back-to-back. I think that's a little bit old school thought. People are a lot smarter now when it comes to DFS, especially golf DFS. But there's still going to be probably less than it normally should be. His ownership's probably going to be less than it should be. For the way he's playing, obviously his form is unbelievable, and the way his course history is unbelievable at this course. I think he's won here also. I got no problem going back to Mr. Chris Kirk for GPPs in this event. Let's go down to the 8K range, and I like your picks too. I'm going to use
thoughts on Willie Z coming back, because we're going to talk about Matt McNeely later for a lot cheaper too. But I have Gary Woodland cheaper coming back from everything he had to go through. Willie Z is 9,300 though, and 30 to 1.
I would say I'm more prone to use those good Gary Woodland and Zalatoris at this event than if they were coming back like mid-season, because basically they're in the same playing field as the other guys. People that now they haven't played in months, like 6 to 8 months, maybe even a year for Willie Z, close to it. But at least the other guys they're competing against, the majority of them have at least had like a month to 6 weeks off, for most people in this field. So at least it's a little bit more. If they did it in the middle of the season, it'd be a lot tougher for me to think about using them. I don't think I'm going to use them at all. But if you see like a 2% Willie Z, okay, I could throw 10% on there, and it'll probably be 5 times the field average.
He feels like he is going to be extremely low this week.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yeah. So I mean, if he's like 2-3%, and I can get 5 times the field average at 10 to 15%, I mean, from a game theory perspective, that just seems like the right play. Now, just from the gut and watching golf, I mean, it's pretty hard to come back from a year off and be competitive. It's tough now.
Remember, you remember the Hero World Challenge, right? He came back, and it was an 81, and then a 68, and then a 79, and then a 71. So it's just really inconsistency. And before that, remember, he'd posted out on social media that I think he set a course record at one of these courses or something like that. So I mean, was it just his first time coming back into competitive play that it caused him to have those 2 really bad rounds, or is it a lingering issue? I mean, that was a month ago. So I don't know if he's going to go completely overlooked. It's definitely interesting tournament play. I just wanted to get your take. I'm not super high on it or anything. I just was curious what you're doing with them coming back to a main field, like full field cut event that we're playing them in.
I'd rather play Decky, who could be lower owned down here. Like if you're looking for a post and pivot, I think JT is going to be popular, and rightfully so. I think Decky might be the play.
Yeah.
Down there, I got no problem with Decky. Let's go to this 8K range. I'll go with my third cash game cornerstone. It's going to be Justin Rose at $8,200. Rosie had 12 birdies on Sunday. Had no bogeys. Shot 61 on a Sunday. We're always looking for golfers coming off a really hot Sunday round. Not only that, the last time he played here, I don't know why he doesn't play him more often, but the last time he played here, I think it was 2nd or 3rd or 5th, like somewhere in the top 5. He finished. So he has the course history. He's played well here before in the past. And the thing is, when it comes to my model, he's actually number 2. He is inside the top 25 in this field in every single stat that I'm looking for. 125 to 150, 150 to 175, par 4 scoring, strokes gained tee to green, birdies are better gained, strokes gained putting. I mean, he's top 25 in all of those. So I'm a fan. I'm going to use him after his hot round. I think he might have found something after sort of struggling the first 3 rounds. Maybe I had a little bit too much of a break. Didn't get as much work in, but now I'm not worried about it. After shooting freaking 61 on a par 73, he's got the game. So I'm going to use him as my third cash game cornerstone. Other guys I do like in this range. Benyon is going to be, he's due for another guy who's due for a win. He's not in the same vein as Eric Cole, But Benny's been playing a lot of good golf here in the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months. He hasn't won on tour yet. And, this guy has won big tournaments before. I mean, the U.S. Amateur is nothing to sneeze at, right? And so I think the way he's been playing, I think I can get back on board now. I will say, if he's like one of the top 3, 4, 5 highest owned, then maybe I think twice about using him and then shift over to Siwoo or Cam. Cam could be a nice little flop leg for this event. I'm not playing well. Big time chalk last week, didn't play well. It's going to come at a lot lower ownership this week. His game seems like it should be able to fit the course at least half decent. Again, par 4 scoring his wedges can use a little bit of work, but he's above average for in the field from 150 to 175, top 20 from 125 to 150, top 20 in strokes gained, par 4 scoring, top 50 in putting, birdies, iron, birdies, tee to green, all strong. I think he can get back on Cam Davis. What about you in this 8K range?
Yeah, well, we talked on the preview show. If you guys didn't check it out, it plays still. You can definitely go back and just watch it here. It's got our preview for the season. Some of these lesser known guys down at the bottom, which we'll mention some of those later, were in it. We talked all kinds of things, our major predictions for the season, all of that, Kenny. But one of the things you talked about on that show was the recent form, final round 4, like bringing some of that stuff into this one. So you mentioned Justin Rose, obviously a huge round 4 for him, but the guy you just mentioned, Cam Davis, right up at the top. I think Benny Ann will be popular, and obviously we know why. But if you look at it from this perspective, there's a couple guys right around him. One, who you just mentioned, Cam Davis, 8 under, bogey-free round on Sunday with a streak, left a couple par 5s. He had a really good round 4, and everyone loved him last week, but maybe he's off people's radar now with the price bump. There's so many guys in this range. People like Steven Yeager, myself included. People like Justin Rose, Danny McCarthy.
Why do people like Steven Yeager?
Because he shot 59 one time.
All right, the guy I don't think he has a top 5 on the PGA Tour. He has never had a top 5 on the PGA Tour. Not one, ever in his life. Not a single top 5, ever. And people playing the fuck out of him at like $9,400. I'm like, why?
Maybe it's the field strength. It's the field strength, I think.
I don't know, man. The guy has never had a top 5.
But he's got a lot of top 14s. 9, 14, 11, 9, 13, 14, and then a bunch of top 25. So yeah, it's you know why, though? It's because he's a cut maker. I'm just going to do a quick run, but it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 30 of his last 33, it looks like, for cuts made. That's probably why. Safety. I mean, especially when he's priced here.
He's basically like old school Matt Kuchar. He's like the new average, but he can hit it a lot farther.
But I mean, you're the cash game king. I'm just saying, like in an event like this.
Yeah, but I'm not going to waste my cash on a guy that's going to be 9,400 with no upside, no top 5 upside. I'm still
100 though.
Maybe like it's 2016, 2017. This shit would have been my boy, right?
What I'm saying, right? This week he's less than average price. He's 8,100, and he's made 30 of his last 33 cuts, including a ton of top 20s and a bunch of top 9 to 14 finishes. That's why he can be valuable. I'm not advocating you got to go all in on this guy. I'm just saying that's why. But one thing I did want to bring up, we forgot about this last week, and it came true, and no one had this narrative, so I thought of this. But Siwoo and Sungjae got the gold medal at the Asian Games. And then what happens last week? Both of them come out and just crush. I mean, Benny Ann's a separate story, but I mean, just from these guys actually had to battle to get the gold medal, to alleviate themselves from their military service, and come out and just
play last week.
Yes, Siwoo played. What did he do? Siwoo was top 25, shot 20 under on the week. His Sunday was a 7 under bogey-free round. He had like two bogeys, 3 bogeys all week. Guy played incredible.
I was more focused on the other Korean breaking the record for most birdies ever in a PGA Tour event. Sung Jae-in with 34 birdies. Basically, he almost went 50% birdies at an event, and he's still only 6th in DraftKings points. He finished 6th in DraftKings points with the most birdies ever in the history of the PGA Tour.
And what was he? 8,100 last week?
Something like that. Yeah,
I don't know. Either way,
I shifted all. I had a whole bunch of Hideki, And I was like, at the last second, I was like, fuck this. I'm shifting this all over to Sungjae. And that helped me out big time.
Yeah. I will say that last season there was, people were holding interventions for me about how much Sungjae was playing. They can take their coffee and their donuts, shove it up their ass, because this year's the year of Sungjae. I'm excited for it. So that was nice to see. He's not here, but Siwoo is. I think he can ride him. Like we just talked about these big rounds. Davis, 8 under bogey free on Sunday. Siwoo, 7 under bogey free on Sunday. And not to mention, well, how does Siwoo do here? Oh, pretty damn good. He won last year, right? So you got Siwoo in the mix. You got Justin Rose that you talk about his big round on Sunday. So I don't know if you have to go to Benny Ann if he gets popular. I like him. I get it. Awesome player, everything. But just looking at it, like there's definitely other pivots here within this rate. Harris English found his stuff last week too. I think it was on Saturday for him. But either way, he had a huge round going at one point there. I think it was round 3 that he crushed it. So I like four guys in this range, I guess. Those would be the ones that stand out early on would be Siwoo, Cam Davis, Harris English, Justin Rose, and then throw your boy Steven Yeager in cash, Kenny. That's the takeaway. But no, I don't know if I got anybody else here. Maybe maybe that's it for right now, I think. Yeah.
7K range, my final cash game cornerstone, Lucas Glover. Here again, I think he was first in strokes gained tee to green last week. He has played this event very, very well in the past. His putting was a lot better in the fall, so I'm hoping that sort of comes back because he was one of the worst putters in the field last week. So I'm just hoping that he can get that belly putter back to norm after teaching Bhatia. Doesn't it seem weird? Like when it comes to the belly putter, like I expect that to be like the last resort. Like you've been a grinder on tour for like 15 years, and finally you're like, fuck it. I know my putting sucks. I'm just gonna go ahead and look stupid and play the belly putter. Bhatia's like 14 years old, and his ass is out there using the belly putter. Shit looks weird to me. It looks weird. To me, in my opinion, belly putter, last resort. Last resort. This motherfucker 12 years old out there. Using a goddamn fucking belly putter out there. Now, it's working.
Right.
Kudos to him. Keep using it. But to me, it's just like, should be the last thing.
But how much did you leave on the table waiting for the last resort? This is the thing, right? Like people, especially these golfers nowadays, and there's analytics for everything and stats and data and you name it. It's like, buddy, you can't putt. Like some of these guys should get to it quicker, but it's like, you can't putt. If you just switch to this, you're going to increase it by X percentage. That works to these many strokes. Obviously, luck and factors of other things will play into it, but why wait? What's the point?
Yeah, but when you're 9 years old like Akshay, it just looks fucking weird, okay? It looks weird. Okay?
Everything else he has going on looks pretty good, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's true.
He's walking around the course with his caddy, being his girlfriend. He's putting his name up on the tops of those leaderboards. He got the W and robbed it from our boy Patrick Rogers.
I guess if you can really step your game up that much, then looking stupid, probably fucking worth it.
You don't
probably fucking worth it. But anyways, my final cascade cornerstone, Lucas Glover. Like I said, tee to green, #1 last week. Really good track record. He missed a cut last year, but whatever. After that, prior to that, he's made every single cut, had top 10 finishes. Again, like I said, tee to green, he's been amazing. He's my final cash game cornerstone. 4 cash game cornerstones this week. It's funny. Last week, my cornerstones finished 5th, 14th, 14th, and 45th. Tom Kim. Not great. Didn't even sniff cash. Didn't even sniff it. And that's the thing about fucking these no-cut events. I was like 24 points out of gas. And I had 5th, 14th, 14th. 3 of my 4 cash game cornerstones. That's really going to bother me when we have all these elevated events with no cuts. But, anyways, this week, my 4 cash game cornerstones going to be Corey Connors, $9,800. Eric Cole, $9,700. Justin Rose, $8,200. Lucas Glover, $7,700. Those are the 4 I'm going to roll with. Like I said, I do like Bhatia. I think Kuchar can make another decent cash play here. Almost like a free square. The guy's made 8 billion cuts here. He actually has a little bit of playing. Him and his son were in contention at that father-son shit in December. So at least, he got out and played a little bit, right? I can play Kuchar in cash. I got no problem with that. I think he's had like 4 top 10s in the last 5 times he's played this course. If you're looking for a course horse, that's going to be your guy. But I like Bhatia. up top. And I like, Andrew Putnam. He's the one guy that I really, really like here for GPPs. Iron play, really, really strong. I think he's top 15 in Bermuda putting in this field. Strokes gained putting on Bermuda greens in this field. Like I said, iron play strong. He's played well here in the past. Really good from 125 to 150. I'm in on Andrew Putnam up top. Who do you like up top in the 7K range?
Hey, you can just play Andrew Putnam wherever you want. I think he's going to be one of the most popular plays of the week when we get to it.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like it early on. Just, I don't think everyone's going to really look, but even if they do, like, he didn't do great last week, but beyond that, he's, 4th and 27th here the last 2 years. Stats look off the page. Any of the stats you look at from last week are good, projects well, things like that. So we'll see how it actually ends up going, but if not, who cares?
Who's going to be more owned, Hoagie or Putnam?
I think Putnam.
Really? Then I'm
Feels
Hoagie
like it.
then. Because I like
Hoagie's there? all those guys. I just think it's upper range. Again,
I just never think of Andrew Putnam as a high-owned golfer ever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's the way it's shaking out early on this week, just seeing it. We'll see what it actually gets to when we get to Wednesday. But for me, this range up top is just loaded of names that people want to play, right? Like Brendan Todd last week, Bhatia, Kuchar, the course horse, you just said it, Svensson. People always like him. Glover looks really popular too. Glover might actually rival Putnam just because people like him more, and it's only a few more dollars. So Glover looks good. Hoagie, List. People play JJ Spawn like Steven Yeager. I've played him in the past. I like him. I think Spawn at 7,600 is interesting. Aaron Rye. So it's really tough to take a stand in this range. I'm going to wait and see ownership. On paper, early, like Rye looks good. You mentioned Hoagie, Spawn, Svensson. All those guys look good, but then like Glover and Putnam look really good, but they look really popular. And to me, Kenny, this week, this looks like twofold. I'll talk about this little, sort of a process tip or strategy idea of not only do I think more people go balanced or the builds that start with like 110K and land in this range, that's fine. But you also have popular plays and then they get even more popular because of roster construction. Oftentimes that can be a way just to avoid it naturally. And you and I talk about this all the time. We've had so many Listener League winners avoid the FOMO of, fear of missing out in the 9K range, where they're like, they skipped the 9K range and it's like the most popular range of the week. You should have no FOMO of missing out on the upper 7K range. If it beats you, it beats you. That can still happen. I'm not saying it won't, and people run back when 3 of these guys finish top 3 and say, that's what you get for fading it. I'm not saying that. I'm not fading it completely, anything like that. I'm saying when you're looking at your builds, noticing that almost all of them end up here, and then there's people and guys in this range, golfers, that people already liked and loved to play, you double down on it, right? You've got now the most popular guys in the most popular constructions. That's a way to get different naturally in your single entry, 3 max, large field stuff, whatever you want to do. That's just a way to get different, is just to skip over a range where you can make the case for these guys in this bottom 7K range as well. Sure, you got plenty.
All right, yeah. I mean, my number one, you got your boy. Talk about your boy, 7,300. Let's go.
Oh, ADDC. Yeah. I was waiting to see. I wasn't fully down, scrolled down, but then I was waiting to see your say. So, yeah, we did the pod earlier. This, what was it, last week? I guess we did the combination of the Sentry and leading in. And the books, man, everyone was waiting on big numbers on him. I think they had him at like 75 or 80 to 1 already coming into today. The stuff that was going on with him is obviously winning tournaments and stuff out there while people are talking about Ludwig and him being sort of like the next guy up or the next guy that's going to do that when he comes out on tour. So he is the good news about him. I don't know how much he picks up from other podcasts and stuff, but there's no real heavy stats on him. You're not going to find any history, all that. You're playing him to be early on him. He's $7,300. There's lots of guys around him that people would much rather play. I'm not advocating to go all in. I'm saying if you like him, get some leverage on him this week. Really play him if you're going to play him. If you want to commit and get in on the action with him, do so. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I like here. I think it makes sense. But there is other guys in this lower 7K range, and I think this range is the one that goes completely overlooked. There's, going to be 1 or 2 guys that pop, but you mentioned some of the other guys that you could play, like Gary Woodland is back 7,100. You could take a shot on him. Mark Hubbard is down there at 7,000. My other guy, actually, that's why I was looking when you said who I had this one tagged, is I like Nick Taylor. I think, again, you go to a guy like Nick Taylor who, we talk about in the past of like coastal courses and playing, what do you win, AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. He came 7th here last year and 11th the time he played it before that. I think Nick Taylor's fine. He's more of those guys that played last week, didn't play well, but now he's 7,200 and may not come in with much ownership. Kirk Kitayama, Patrick Rogers, 2 other guys, Emiliano Grillo. I think there's at least those 5 or 6 options I just mentioned, without naming everybody down this range, that I can get behind here, Kenny, that most of them played last week or have played before, or I'm playing on a bet on talent, and I'm fine with that. So I do like this range down here. I think it goes much more overlooked than the upper 7K range.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys like Grillo you're talking about. I'm a fan. I like Billy Horschel here at $7,400. It looked like his game, he was lost for a little bit, but it looked like he found something in the fall. Had a nice little top 10 finish out there at $7,400 for a guy who's won like 8 times on tour. I'll go ahead, play a little Billy O down here, top 15 in strokes gained putting on Bermuda, along with Justin Suh, another guy who sort of tends to play better on Bermuda courses. So I could play him at 7,400. Hubbard at 7,000. Really, really good with his wedge play. Ranked, I think, top 10 in my model. He's another guy that I could look at down here. And also Ben Griffin, who, you played in the fall out your ass. Everyone did. He's coming back here. Again, another guy who's really good on par fours. He could score tons of birdies, lots of DraftKings points, can putt his ass off. Tee to green, top 20 to top 30 in this field. I can get behind Ben Griffin. Let's go down to the 6K range. You know what? There's guys down here. It's not barren. Some weeks we see in the 6K range, especially nowadays in a field with a cut. When you look down there, you got Michael Kim at $6,900, who's played probably the best golf of his career in the last year. Really, really good from 150 to 175. Doug Kim, again, another guy, 150 to 175, really, really strong. Tee to green, he's actually top 5 in this field. It's all about putting and getting his mind right. And so, I can get behind Doug Kim down here. Ryan Moore joining the old man crowd, is the best from 150 to 175 in this field in the last 50 rounds. I could go ahead and use him at 2% ownership, 1.6% ownership, whatever. Down there, Grayson Sigg, again, another guy, excellent from 100 to 175. That short to medium wedge game, he is exceptionally strong. Grayson Sigg is. Stuart Sick has made every cut here basically in his life. You know what I'm saying? If you're looking for like that cheap cash play, you just want to fucking make the cut, he could be your dude at $6,700. Hayden Buckley at $6,600. 2 top 15s here in his career. Brandon Wu, I bet him, one of the best from 150 to 175, has had success on short coastal courses before, aka Pebble Beach, where he finished runner-up last year. It's not barren down here. There's guys, even if you go down farther, Town, he has skill. His approach game well above average. Really plays par 4 as well. 7th in my model from 150 to 175 in the last 50 rounds. Tambo, who do you got?
It's way more disgusting because I think this is the thing that's at least somewhat interesting about this, Kenny. It's going to be the ultimate rubber hits the road type situation when we get down to it. We just did it with Kuchar, mind you, in a bigger range. You mentioned, you called it the father and son shit. Obviously, that tournament is a bit interesting, but the fact that he's out there getting the job done. One of these guys was in the booth last week and has an incredible history here. He's got to show up at some point just to do his thing. That's his guy, Kevin Kisner, 6,100 for Kisner this week. If you want to take a shot down there, he is a guy that has played extremely well at this course. Most will say he's done or he's dust, but he's going to show up. That's kind of interesting. I think more people would rather take shots on the names they know. I'm going to do that too. But just to give you a few here, they popped up for us over at Ship It Nation was, you got Kevin Kisner. I'll give you one more. Webb Simpson is another one. What do you think on Webb? Is Webb going to be able to do anything this season? Like, I know that he dropped, Tesori last year, who went to Cameron Young, who's already dropped him now.
The reason why he dropped him was because he knew his game was sucking, and he didn't want Tesori. He didn't want his buddy to not make money.
He didn't want to feel sorry.
Right? Isn't that why Webb got rid of him? Like, because he knew he sucked ass, and he knew Tesori would be with him forever, right? Through thick and thin, because that's the type of guy Paul Tesori is. And Webb was like, nah, man, just go find somebody else.
And now he's with Brendan Todd. So
he's like, my ass sucks ass right now. It ain't gonna work. I don't know. Hey, Brendan Todd, he's in the elevated events. All right, so he's gonna get paid.
I was gonna get paid. Yeah. I just mean take now.
Webb ain't in the elevated events. Okay, so
he would have rather stayed with Cameron Young, but my guy that knows the situation that texted me about it way before when he got hired for Cameron Young first. He kind of tipped me off and said this, and I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. It came true. He says that this is what happened, is that essentially he didn't want, like, Cam Young doesn't want to listen to this guy and didn't want to take notes, so he kind of got rid of him based off of that and was like, I'll just move on. I'll go to somebody else. So I don't know. We'll see.
Cam Young should probably take some fucking notes. The guy ain't playing very fucking well.
Yeah.
That's alarming.
Yeah.
Really. That's alarming.
That's what happens though, right?
If that's the truth, that's alarming. Like, guys who can't take critiques, like, to try and make themselves better, like, not just in golf but in life. Right. Those people have a tough time.
The smartest people in the room, it always is. It doesn't work out well. You should be willing.
Yeah, it does not. So
that's why I said we made fun just 2 minutes ago. You were making, not making fun, making point of the joke of how young he is in Bhatia, but yeah, he's not the smartest person in the room. He says, I'm going to do my thing, figure it out, take some notes, all that. Like, look, that's the same guy that, what happened with the playoff situation? Remember, it was so tilting for him about that. Like, he should have done this, played in an event, tried to get in, didn't. But now he comes right back out. He didn't let it bother him. The guy's in the mix again just this week. I know he fell out on Sunday, but like, he's going to be back. He, like you said, how young he is. It's not like we're worried about this guy falling off or something. So take the feedback. It's always good. Some of the guys down here, Doug Gim, Grayson Sig, a couple of the ones you mentioned. One thing is, Degenerate 75 brought this up earlier. The guys that have just been grinding, you talked about, guess who the guys are that grind, Kenny? The guys that play the Japanese tour 24/7. Kanaya is looking pretty good at 6,700. He's been playing heavily overseas, 8th, 3rd, 7th, 2nd. Like, I know the field strength is not good, but it doesn't really matter. Like, they can play golf. Can he make a cut? You're getting the price baked in. Our resident fill-in, our guy Baroff, he loves some Jake Knapp. He's a guy at 6,700. You mentioned Buckley, Tyler Duncan. I'm wondering if Johnny Vegas, I just saw he's finally, like, I feel like I haven't seen this guy forever. If he feels not,
too.
Yeah, I feel like he should have just taken the live bag. He had a literal live bag, like a Saudi bag that had their logo and everything on it, and then did not end up going over. We all had him pegged for joining the league when it first came out. So that was interesting. Neesmith was one that stood out here for me. Chad Ramey was another one. Joey B. Bramblett. And probably Joel Damon. I think that'll round it out for the guys that I'm just, again, early interest. I won't get
Joel Damon seems like he's toast.
Who?
Seems like he's Damon. Dominated ever since he was on a full swing, and he got so popular, and then his game literally sucks ass. The worst golf he's ever played in his life since the growing of his popularity. And when we all saw when full swing, like, he doesn't really try. Right? So I mean, like, I don't know. I can't get on him anymore.
That was what the thing was on that, though. It was like Max Homa shows up to say hi, and they're like, oh, so he's like, oh, stick around. We're all drinking. And Max Homa's like, nah, that ain't me. Max Homa's crushing, winning everything, winning DP World Tour events, you name it, and trying to get Major Max in the bank this season. And then,
dude, his tee to green last week was fucking sick.
Yeah,
I mean, he finished 14th. For some reason, he forgot how to putt. He was literally the worst putter in the field. Literally the worst putter in the field.
In October, for Damon's defense, 7th at the Shriners, 13th at the Farms. Like, that's the last 3 he's played. He was in the mix at these tournaments. Like, I think down here at...
Maybe I just been thinking, I don't know. I just could be biased against him because I feel like he hasn't done shit. And, like, what he said at full swing sort of rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah. Right? I mean, like, what the fuck?
You must have liked him pulling the White Claw, though.
I was like, what are you doing out there if you're not going to try and be the best? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense to me. But to each its own. I mean, he's happy being the 60th, 70th, 80th best player in the world. That's good. More power to him, okay? All right, so bets this week. I'll go ahead first. Right now, I have Corey Connors 33-1. Lucas Glover 66-1. Justin Rose 50-1. All 3 of those are 5 places each way. Hayden Buckley 100-1. Brandon Wu 125-1. 8 places each way. And I think I'm going to add one more. I'm thinking Eric Cole, but I'm not sure. So we'll see. Make sure you just check Dub's Corner on Wednesday to see my full card. Tamil.
Yeah, last week we didn't have any. I didn't have any on the pod that we did. It was early and all that. I ended up betting Spieth, Hatton, and a couple first-round leaders that did not hit. So I ended up getting the Spieth each way, which was nice. But this week, starting slow. I didn't get to it till later today. The odds on my book didn't update till after I was in between meetings. So I got Keegan at 65 and Glover at 65. I saw a couple people that I like on those guys. I didn't do full of my own stuff yet. So what I'm going to do is dig in tonight, get mine, and I'll post them over. If I have anything big that I add, I'll post it into the Ship It Nation Discord.
One and done. We get the pick. This week it's back. Mine's going to be your Canadian brethren, Corey Connors, or Justin Rose, or Lucas Glow. Those are probably my picks.
I think I'm going to go either someone up top, like a Hatton, and just play him because he played last week. I think he's playing good enough. Right now, I don't know what I'd be saving him for, or I'm probably just going to go Siwoo Kim. Again, like I said, I know it wasn't the best finish last week, but obviously coming back, this event, getting a little something going on Sunday, the stress of everything gone away now for both him and Sungjae. I think that's a big part of what we saw. You and I talked about that forever. At the start of last season, we talked about the Asian Games coming back and that being a potential thing. Remember last year, Siwoo was doing this at the start of the season too, grinding, and then got the job done here. Like that's what you see early on. And that's why I liked your take earlier. I know I didn't talk much about your Chris Kirk thoughts, like the angle of him. I know the price goes up and everything changes now, but the main thing is, like, these guys want to stack this momentum when they can. The guy's got really good results at this course, coming off a win, obviously playing great, closed it out on Sunday when others buckled. And that's just whatever. That's golf, birdie fest, pressure, you name it, that happens. But, I mean, that's what they want to do. These guys want to come out, peak for a little bit. The surfers mentality. I talked about with someone today. It gets posted out on Twitter, and these people talk about, but, like, there's going to be waves. It happens in DFS. It happens in betting, life, whatever. You're going to go up, and you're going to come crashing back down. And then you get back on the surfboard, and you go back up again. They're trying to stack them while they're riding the big wave. Right now, Chris Kirk, pretty big wave that he's sitting on, $1 million plus on that wave and more. So you got to think of it from that perspective, too.
Yeah, old white guys seem to do this pretty well. Like, what was the last person to win back-to-back events? Was it Glover? Did Glover win back-to-back?
Might have been Glover, yeah.
Glover, and then before Glover, I think it was Brendan Todd in the fall, like 3 years ago. I think those are the last two guys that went back-to-back events. And Chris Kirk sort of fits that mold, right?
Yeah.
Old white dude. So maybe he can go back-to-back this week. Any other bets?
I got nothing else for right now. No, like I said, I'll keep it at that. The one and done back. Join the Mayo. One and done. Definitely a big one to do. I'll do everything and then kick it over to you. But you guys can find me on X, Toe Tag and Tambo. The tidbits will be back this week. So you will see the tidbits. Please help me out. The one thing I asked, just like Kenny talked about here, like this video, subscribe, leave your comment with your winner, all that. But those tidbits, all you got to do, it's free to do. It takes 2 seconds. Like it, repost it so other people find it. Help out that way. It helps me out a ton. Appreciate that. And then, of course, everything going on at Ship It Nation. If you guys want to get in right now, the PGA only packages, you can use the code PGA10. It gets you your first month for around $30, around $1 a day. If you use it for the season pass, you can get a full season. There's sites out there charging $500, $599 for the season for just golf. We charge $539 for the year for everything, but you can do the just golf package for $179 using code PGA10. If you want the all access, use code Mayo to get 10% off anything you want to check out over there.
You can find me on GubsCorner.com. Use promo code Kenny. Save yourself 30% on a membership at the Gubs Corner. They got the green screen tools that you can use, and the membership includes every single sport on the site. So go check it out. Also, you can find me on X at KendoVT. Make sure you leave your comment of the winner, and we will do this new listener, format. And it'll be fun. You can win prizes. Make sure you do it. Let's see how big we can fucking grow. All right? So let's win some motherfucking money. Degenerates.
I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc.